بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we are able to have our session on e-ethics today, and inshallah we will have one more session in future. And I hope that what we are going to discuss would help us better understand how to interact with internet in general and social media in particular. This is an area which is relatively new, and therefore you see all people and all communities still are wondering what would be the best and proper response, how we should interact with each other on social media, how much our time, energy, resources should be given to this aspect of our life. So it's something that still we are all learning. It's a new experience. It's like, for example, imagine people when they were just walking and riding horses or camels. When the automobile came, it didn't just facilitate transportation, but it also brought lots of new issues, lots of new ideas. And the same is with, for example, telephone. The same is with, plane. When a new technology comes, it brings lots of new issues for us to consider. And successful people are the people who don't just go by the pressure of technology, by the waves of industry. They are able to stop, to pause for a while and see what should they do. How can they benefit from all the advantages and at the same time safeguard themselves and their families and communities and relations from the harm which may come? This is very, very important. And if we have to choose between benefiting from advantages of technology and safeguarding ourselves and our relations, if we are to choose, if we are not able to have both, for sure our relations, family relations, community relations, our relation with ourselves, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the privacy that we want to have, the ability for concentration are the most important thing. We are not going to sacrifice this type of aspect of our life for the convenience and for the advantages that we receive from using information technology. Of course, we try to get as much as possible both of them, but if we cannot, or if we are not sure how to do it, we need time to learn, we should not sacrifice our principles, our values, our relations, our family, our community for the sake of just convenience. So let's talk to each other, discuss this, and see how much we can establish for ourselves some principles that would help us in this issue. Before I start my presentation, I should tell you something about the history of what I'm going to share with you. For years, of course, I've been very much thinking about this issue, and it has been my concern. But to force myself to prepare something and write something, so sometime back, when we had a conference in University of Oxford with the Protestant churches in the UK, we suggested to them to talk about the challenges of modern life. And I decided to talk about e-ethics. So in this way, I forced myself to prepare something, and for preparing that, again, I asked many friends, many even students to share with me their ideas, many colleagues, and I also wanted to benefit from our friends, Christian friends' experiences. So that paper was presented there, and that is also online, my YouTube presentation online. So I'm going to use that and try to expand and explain, inshallah, those ideas. So first, I have an introduction here. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. With the advancement of information technology, many new ways of communication, spending time. There are now things that you can do for leisure time on internet. There are entertainments, amusements, many things on internet. So it's not only new ways of communication, new ways of spending time and resources and making decisions have become possible. What should our moral response and moral usage involve? How can we make our usage of internet and activities on social media compatible with our moral values? Because we cannot restrict our moral values to a corner of our life. One of the important characteristics of morality is that it has to be consistent. Even, some Western philosophers like Immanuel Kant, they were considering this as one of the very few but fundamentally important requirements of morality, that has to be consistent. You have to be always holding on to them, and you wish also to generalize it. So if other people also do the same, you will be happy. I cannot say, this is good for me, but I don't want anyone else to do it. If, for example, there is a queue for, buying the ticket for train, then if I do something in that queue, I should be happy also to be generalizing. If other people do the same, I should be happy. So you have to be consistent yourself, and also consistent in the sense that if other people also would do the same, you make the same judgment. So we cannot say that when it comes to internet, we don't apply our values. Our values are for the rest of the life. Our values are always to be respected and implemented and preserved. So how can we make our usage of internet and activities on social media compatible with our moral values? And if possible, go even further and make them part of our spiritual development. Because we don't want just to make sure that we don't do bad things on internet, or we don't waste our time on internet. We want us to see how we can make it another opportunity for doing good things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another opportunity for doing good things for our own perfection, for our own journey towards God, towards the truth. So we want this also become another temple, another place of worship. This is in addition to the questions and concerns caused by modern technology. Technology in general has brought lots of questions, and information technology yet brings more questions. So there are questions that we have about all types of technology, and there are questions that we have in addition to those questions about internet and information technology. The question of technology in general is the question of our dependence, how much we should depend on technology, how much we should consume, how much we should let machine take over. These are very important issues. How much we are becoming weaker and weaker by using technology. Technology is good, but it has to be regulated. Even for eating and drinking, which are necessities of life, we need regulations. We cannot eat all the time. We cannot eat everything. We have to observe many things. Otherwise, our health, our diet, our morality will be affected. Technology is also to be regulated. Who is going to regulate technology? Not the industry itself, because they are after promoting technology, selling technology, making money. But we need another way of regulating technology, and that's moral, spiritual, religious regulations that we should have for ourselves. So we shouldn't start using a new machine as soon as it comes to the market. We should not buy a new gadget as soon as it becomes available or it's advertised. We have to be very careful. Even there are some types of technology that maybe some countries ban. For example, you can do lots of things by biotechnology. You can clone. You can do lots of genetic engineering. You can have lots of genetically modified, foods. Should we do all these things just because they are possible? So lots of questions are posed by modern technology. But in addition to all those general questions about any type of technology, we have questions about information technology. So here we should focus more on issues arising in cyberspace because of advancement in information technology, extra to the issues related to technology in general. So I will try, inshallah, in these two presentations to refer to some aspects of Islamic theory of ethics in general, because that's the basis, that's the foundation, and then e-ethics in particular. So, inshallah, this presentation ends with reference to some of the virtues that should govern our online activities. So, the first thing, human beings have free will. This is one of the most fundamental things in humanity, that we have freedom. We are able to choose. Not everything. We cannot change or choose everything. There are things which are not in our hand. But we are able to choose for ourselves what type of people we want to become, what type of life we want to have. We want to have a moral life or immoral life. We want to be kind and benevolent, or we want to be cruel and just unjust and selfish. So we can choose this type of thing. We can choose for ourselves to become the best of the best or the lowest of the lowest among the creatures. So there is a space for exercising our freedom. But what is important is that our freedom, although has been given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our creation, but has to be safeguarded. Because sometimes, although we are free, but people want to take away your freedom. Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam said, "La takun abda ghayrak, qad ja'alaka Allahu hurra." Do not let others enslave you. God has created you free. But to take away our freedom is not necessarily a matter of only physically arresting us or imprisoning us or enslaving us. Sometimes it's more gentle. Sometimes it's the power of advertisement, is psychological programming that takes away your freedom. They can manipulate our decisions. They can work in the way that you think you are in control of your decisions, but it's already planned by others. So this is also very important. So we shouldn't just be satisfied that philosophically we are free. So the first point I am making here is human beings have free will and are therefore responsible for whatever they believe, do, and express, whether it be orally or in writing or by gesture, or more precisely for whatever decision they make about whether they should believe or not, do something or do not, express or not. So even expression has to be very carefully measured and assessed. Because, sometimes we think doing means something you have to do with your hand, or something that you have to do by going from one place to another place. But speaking is also an action. And you use your free will to say or not to say and how to say. Therefore, you are responsible for any choice you make. But talking verbally is not the only way of talking and expressing yourself. So if you write also, you are responsible. If you type, you are also responsible. If you post, you are also responsible. Even if you post someone else's writing, you post someone else's picture, you quote, you forward, you retweet, you are responsible. Any decision that we make, it's preceded by exercise of our free will, and therefore we have to be acting responsibly. We have to be ready to be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have to undertake the decision. It's not something that you can run away from it. So we have to be saying that I'm responsible for this. You cannot blame others. You cannot put, the responsibility on others. We are doing this. Not only doing something needs justification, but also not doing also needs justification. Whether we do or we don't do, whether we say or we don't say, whether we accept or we don't accept, they need justification. So we have to be very careful about every motion, every word, every decision. If I go to a place, I am responsible. If I don't go, I'm also responsible. Maybe that place was necessary for me to go. Why you didn't go to the mosque? Why you didn't go to learn? Why you didn't go to doctor when you were ill? Why you didn't go to visit your relatives? Why you didn't go to see your parents and show them your love? So going and not going both need reason. Saying and not saying both need justification. Of course, as long as you don't have enough reason, you may not do anything till you become sure. But you cannot take more time than needed, than rational, than reasonable, and just delay and delay and delay everything and say, this is my policy. I don't do anything unless I am 100% sure, but for you to become 100% sure, it's something that you try to always delay. This is not also possible. So we have to know that whether we do or we don't do, we are in need of justification. The minimum justification for not doing is to know after examination that there is no justification for doing. So you say, I looked carefully into this case and I had no enough reason that I should do it. Then I don't do it. Okay, this is also justification. Examining the case and finding no reason for doing, it's a good reason for not doing. But this is also a reason. So you cannot just do or you just don't do without bothering about the reason. So the same is true about believing and expressing. Whether to believe or not, whether to express or not, whether to say or not, all need reason. So this is the first principle that we establish here, and we should remember it all the time. Whether we are walking on the street, or we are surfing on the net. We should remember this. Number 2, every single thought, intention, action, and expression, such as words that we write or utter, are fully and permanently registered. Fully and permanently registered. There is nothing that can be hidden. Nothing that can remain unnoticed. Maybe someone is not here to watch me. Maybe the camera is off. Maybe I am not expressing my identity, so the other party doesn't know who am I. But we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the angels who are responsible for registering our actions, our own organs, are also registering them. Of course, nowadays it seems that it's easy to believe that even if you are very secretive, you have to assume that you are being watched and monitored and checked. Even the email account that you use stores all the information about you, and they have intelligence, artificial intelligence. Sometimes in an email you say to someone about visa, then they send you advertisement about visa, how to get visa. If you are talking about ticket, they send you advertisement about this. Who told them this? It means that you are being monitored, you are being watched. So even in worldly sense, we are being more and more monitored and watched, and everything is registered. One of the top managers of one of these famous email service providers said that in future some people need to change their names because everything about them is registered, and they will be afraid of living with their history while people know what they have done, what they have said. So no one should think that he can remain unnoticed even if you use fake names. Okay, it's a fake name, but after some time, these fake names can be connected to each other, and your real name can be known. But above all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware. Alam ya'lam ba'anna Allah yara. Doesn't man know that God is watching him, seeing him? So if I speak to a stranger, to a non-mahram, to a woman who is not related to me, physically, for example, we meet each other in a place, or we speak to each other on internet, they are both watched by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not that when we are physically in one place, we have to be careful about what we say. We should observe haya and modesty, but on internet, we don't need to observe haya and modesty. The reality is that unfortunately, when you don't see each other, and you don't hear each other, and you just type and chat, unfortunately, our sensitivity for modesty goes down. It's a sad reality, unless we are careful. So people sometimes feel embarrassed to say things to each other, where, serious criticism, or, for example, things to attract, the attention, or, things to express love, different things. Sometimes you feel embarrassed to say this, or you don't feel you have enough courage to say this in front of someone, in face of someone, person, but you can chat and write these things in email or other ways. So we have to be very careful. In all circumstances, everything that we do or say or express is fully registered. And it's permanently registered. It's not that they keep it for 48, for example, hours, or for 72 hours, or for 1 year, 5 years, and then they destroy all the records. Whatever is registered, it also remained. It's remaining. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may be asked to forgive us, to erase and remove the bad records or cover them. We have takfir as-sayyi'at, Allah may cover the sins. We have mahw as-sayyi'at, Allah may wipe out our sins. But that's when you are sincere, repentant. That's another issue. But without repentance, without changing our behavior, without regretting, things remain forever. If there are good things, if you have been modest, if you have been kind, if you have been doing things properly, alhamdulillah, they are going to be there forever. But if we do bad things, they are going to be registered forever. So we have to be very careful. No matter whether we had them in private or public. In both cases, they will be fully and permanently registered. In our hearts, you keep something in your heart. What is going in your heart? For example, sincerity, lack of sincerity is in the heart, but it will be known and registered. Or in the physical world, or in the virtual world, offline or online, they will be all registered. Whether we attach significance to them or simply did them, we said, no, I didn't mean a lot, or I didn't, say it as a serious thing. Even your jokes are important, are registered. Everything is important because you are important. Because you as a human being are important. Everything that you do or you say is important. We are not robots. We are not animals. We are human beings. We are viceroys of Allah on the earth. So everything that we do is important. Even if I don't think it's important, it's important. There are many different witnesses that bear witness to our conditions of heart, like faith. They bear witness about our faith, about iman, about sincerity, insincerity, about actions. On the day of judgment, they bear witness. This includes our own organs. قالوا لجلودهم لما شهدتم علينا قالوا أنطقنا الله الذي أنطق كل شيء. Even our skin would bear witness. The criminals would say to their skin, why you bore witness against us? They say, Allah made us speak, and He makes everything speak. Why you speak? Because Allah wanted you to speak. So Allah made me also to speak. So even your skin, your hand, your eyes, your ears would bear witness. Moreover, not only the outcomes of our actions will be reflected on us, but also the actions themselves will be seen. So, it's very important. The criminal actions will have impact on us, and also they will be manifested themselves. So you will see the outcomes of the actions, and you will see the actions themselves. من يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. If you do a little good thing or a little bad thing, you will see it, but it will also have impact on you. This is why يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم. You can understand who is criminal by looking at their face. It has impact on them. It's not that their bad action is visible but separate. Point 3. Human beings will have to be answerable to God on the day of judgment. Therefore, every person should hold himself or herself accountable in and for every single moment of his or her life. In every moment, we are tested and tried in different ways and from different aspects. Of course, this is a very good opportunity because every test means you have opportunity to raise the bar. You can improve your standards. But at the same time, you have to be careful because every test also means that if you are not careful, you may lose what you have achieved. So you have to be always careful and cautious. So every person should hold himself or herself accountable in and for every single moment of his or her life. In every moment, we are tested and tried in different ways and from different aspects. In other words, every moment we have opportunities to gain or lose. The minimum loss is the moment itself. So at least you lose the time. And this is why I say, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي. We are in loss. At least we lose our life. Khesara, khusran, loss, is when you lose your capital. Not just you don't make profit. For example, someone who is selling ice in summer, it's hot summer, he's selling ice. If he doesn't sell ice quickly, all the ice will melt. This is called khesara. It's not that he doesn't make money. Even his capital, which he has used to buy ice, is going to evaporate. So every moment we have opportunities to gain or lose. The minimum loss is the moment itself. No moment of our life is replaceable or reversible. Even if you give all your money, you cannot bring back the time which has passed. Even one day, even 1 hour. So, I want to bring back 1 hour that I had with my father or my mother or my child. You cannot bring it back. On top of life, we will be specifically asked about our youth. How did you spend your shabab? It says, لا تزول قدم عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربع. On the day of judgment, you cannot move unless you are asked about 4 things. One of them is about your life. Another thing is about your younghood. So it's very important that you have extra care about your young age, because that's the time of maximum productivity, or at least maximum preparation for productivity. So on top of life, we will be specifically asked about our youths. This is in addition to our use of the resources and divine blessings that God has bestowed upon us. We will be asked about the way we have treated animals and even water and soil. Even if you are next to a river, you will be asked how you treated that river. If you take a cup of water from river and pour it out without good use, you waste that water, you are responsible. You cannot say, oh, there is plenty of water in the river. No. On top of life, we will be specifically asked about our youths. So this is important. Then we will be asked about resources, and then about the way we have treated other human beings, specifically those who are under our direct care, like our children, or those who are vulnerable and need special cares, like elders, the poor, the refugees, ill people. So our way of treating everyone is important, but especially the people who are under our care, and we have a special responsibility towards them. So this is also important to remember. And 4, this is my last point, and inshallah there will be questions. Although the way an action takes place and the outcomes that follow are very important, the moral and spiritual weight of the action mainly lies in the procedure that takes place before actually starting doing the action. What happens here? The way you do action, the outcomes are very important. For example, I write a very good book and many people appreciate and benefit. Okay, so the action is good, writing a very nice book, very useful, scholarly book. And many people benefit, so there's good outcome. But still you cannot judge that this was hasana. This was something that helped me in my journey towards Allah. The only way you can judge is when you can go further and investigate what happened before writing that book. What was in my heart? Why I wrote that book? So the moral and spiritual weight of the action mainly lies in the procedure that takes place before actually starting doing something. In order to be able to act justifiably, one needs to consider the following: one's alertness. Were you alert? Were you conscious? If I was sleepy and I said something, or if I was, for example, like mad, or I was, na'udhu billah, drunk, or na'udhu billah, I don't know, lost my understanding, it has no value. Even Allah says in the Quran that there are people who say their prayer while they are not understanding. They don't know what they say. Even prayer, when you don't understand, inshallah we will mention this, becomes something which is not adding to your value. لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى حتى تعلموا ما تقولون. Something like this. If you are drunk, don't do your prayer. This is not an excuse to say, okay, prayer is not wajib anymore. It means that this prayer is not accepted. It's not even valid if you don't understand what you are saying. So even something like prayer, if you don't understand what you are saying, if you are not conscious, has no value. So you have to be alert. So one's alertness is important. One's self-consciousness is very important. So not only am I alert, I am self-conscious, I am aware of what I'm doing. And one's awareness of the case involved and all the pros and cons of the action is very important. And finally, one's motives and intention. So those who are more alert, more conscious, more knowledgeable, and more sincere, they have the best of the actions. Inshallah, we'll continue this discussion and we go into more details about usage of internet, but these are very important things to prepare our basis and foundation of morality and moral use of internet. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. So if we have questions, inshallah, I can receive those questions. Is there any question? Okay. I see. Okay. Are Islamic ethics something that their understanding of has changed over generation. Of course, the principles are the same. Principles are principles because they don't change easily. And some of the principles can never change because they are based on the basic facts and truths. But methods, attitudes, details, topics can be changing. For example, there are many new issues that we deal in applied ethics that in the past were not relevant. The next question is how to control ourselves for not forwarding message. Yes, so we have to know that even when you forward a message, you are responsible. Because some people say, I didn't write it myself, and even I said that I am just forwarding this message. I am not responsible because I told them I forward this message. I'd say, even if you forward, and even if you say that you don't agree necessarily with what you have forwarded, still you are responsible. If someone puts something which is unhealthy in front of my door, and then I put it in front of the door of my neighbor, I am responsible. I cannot say, I just forwarded it. If someone, transfers a germ to me and I pass it on to other people, I cannot say I just passed it on. I myself was not happy. I did suffer. So just forwarding does not take away your responsibility. You are responsible for the time that that person is going to spend on this. This is the minimum. You are taking their time. Is it something useful? Many times, even things which are useful may not have priority. There are so many things that if you had endless time, it's good to know. But they don't have priority. They can just cause distraction. So we have to know, please, let us all remember, I'm telling this myself, that even if we forward someone else's message, we are still responsible. So the next question is, so talking to a non-mahram via online is the same as talking to them in person. Couldn't you make their argument that talking via internet limits any potential haram? I'm not saying they are the same, because at least, for example, maybe when it is through internet, the body of the person is not seen, for example, if the camera, or maybe you don't even hear the voice because it's just text. But what I'm saying, you cannot say, I stopped my relation with non-mahram because I just don't see them, or I just don't meet them in person. Your relation with non-mahram remains even when it is through sending letter, let alone chatting, which is live. So you have to be careful. We have to be careful. We have to be considering this as an area that maximum care and chastity are required. Because as I said, here it's easier to lose your haya because you don't see each other. People can say things on internet to each other that they cannot say face to face. Sometimes it can be good. For example, I shy to say to someone that I have an issue with you. We want to communicate and solve our disagreement. There is a dispute between us. I'm not saying it's always bad, but also because it's easy, it can also cause problem if it goes between two strangers to non-mahram. Because the pressure and seriousness of face-to-face meeting is not there. It can work in good way or can work in bad way. We have to be very careful. The next question is there any way in particular to prevent ourselves from using the social media and internet in a bad way? I think the main thing is to add to our alertness and consciousness. As much as possible, we have to be alert and conscious. Inshallah, I will mention some techniques. For example, as much as possible, we should try to avoid instant response. It's instant, you lose your control, you lose time. You know, those who want to sell you something, many times they try to rush you. They buy now, this offer is ending very soon. You have just 1 day, you have just 1 hour. Why? Because if you take your time, you may decide not to buy, or you may find better suppliers. They try to rush you. When we are on internet and we have instant communication, we have to be very careful. Unless we are a person who is really trained and exercised, no one should think he's easily getting to that point. So we have to be very careful. As much as possible, take your time. As much as possible, try to have some times that you are offline. Why we should be all the time online? We should be sometime offline. We should have time that our mind is at rest. And in this way also we can set up a good model for everyone. Inshallah, I will mention some techniques and tips, inshallah. And if you have also to share with me so that we can, inshallah, develop this further, I will be very happy and grateful. Can you please specify what do you mean by regulation of internet technology? If it is a self-driven, then how can we make such structure accountable? Of course, there are regulations that service providers, governments, for example, in a school, in home, parents, guardians of the school should have. Those are other regulations. But every person for his own use of internet should have his own regulations. What are halal and haram here? But even those things which are halal, are they moral? Are they spiritual? Are they beneficial? Or just they are permissible? Because even permissible things which are not helping us, they are wasting of time. And in a sense, they become morally haram. Because maybe something legally is not haram. But from a spiritual point of view, it can become something that you have to stop it. For example, if I sleep 18 hours a day, maybe it's not haram as such. Sleeping is not haram. But if it is wasting my time, if it's making me lazy and useless and burden on others, then it becomes at least morally haram. Perhaps even fiqhi point of view, it can become haram. So for using internet and social media, we have to have our own personal regulations, not to violate any divine laws, but also not to do just things, even if they are okay, because then it becomes a matter of developing a habit of wasting our time. We would lose our concentration. We would be too distracted, and our mind and attention will be too much divided and distributed. One of the best things which is becoming rare and rare to have is concentration. I myself sense, when you receive many emails, many posts, many, communications. If you do it in the beginning of the day, then it affects you till midday. If you do it in the night, it will keep your mind busy during the sleep even. In your unconscious level of your mind, you are still dealing with them. So we should learn, and we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, but also we should help each other, and we should try to be determined that we set up regulations. For example, I was thinking maybe in the morning, up to a certain time, I should do only my work and studies and not read all the messages and emails and posts and news, because then I would quality, study quality concentration. So these are things that are very important. We have to, inshallah, as a community, set up procedures and guidelines and share with our community members, with our children, because everyone wants to understand these things. I don't think this is something that people will be against it, but they need clear and reasonable step-by-step guidelines. How can I purify my intentions with riyakari? Okay. So in order to be sincere, we have to see why we should not be sincere. If all the good comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dignity, respect, honor, all come from Allah. Even risk, sustenance comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Knowledge comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Love of people for us comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then why I should try to please people by showing off? In the first Fatimiyya this year, I had 2 lectures on sincerity based on Lady Fatima's hadith. Man as'ada ila Allah khalisa ibadatihi ahbata Allahu ilayhi afdala maslahatihi. It's available on YouTube, my Facebook, about sincerity and significance of sincerity, outcomes. Inshallah, you can find it on the internet. The next question is, what is one's responsibility when she or he is in a group in which a small number of members are contributing negative input? Yes, so we should try to change the situation. If there is a way to talk to them in private, to the admin, if needed, if no one is listening, maybe in public, as much as possible indirect, as much as possible soft and gentle, as much as possible private. But if not, little by little, to make it more direct, you make it more public. But if you try, everything doesn't work, so you come out of that group. If you think it's not useful, or at least you say clearly that I may still remain in the group, but I'm not happy and I'm not going to contribute. Because even saying negative input, even if it is bad news, is not good. Why we should all the time share bad news? Bad news is already everywhere. And nowadays, we receive bad news from all over the world. Even locally, we have lots of bad news. Let alone, receive all the bad news from. Yes, there are things that we have to know about what is happening in the world, what's happening to oppressed people. But why every bad news should come? Unfortunately, some people in media say good news is no news. And we suffer because of that. We say good news is the real news. Okay, a little bad news should also be there. But why we don't share good news? Why we don't share positive things? Someone has been successful, someone, I don't know, has good relations, someone has been kind, someone has done some charity. There are couples who are very happily living together. Why we cannot say all this good news? We receive some news information, including some hadiths which turn out are false sometimes. Do we have to verify authenticity before forwarding? Yes. As I said, anything you forward, you are responsible. If there is a hadith, if there is a fiqh masala, if there is an idea that you receive, you must investigate before forwarding. Even you cannot say, I just forward and I'm not responsible. If it comes from a reliable source, then you can forward and say this from this source. For example, comes from website of a marja, website of a true scholar. But not that everything we receive just because it says it's hadith, we forward it. It can be fake hadith, it can be weak hadith, it can be hadith that needs explanation, can confuse people. So you never forward anything unless you are sure that this is right and useful. Even as I said, sometimes useful things are not priority. Even you should not send everything useful. You know, if you send 100 hadith, useful hadith every day, so they are not going to bother then about it then, unless they stop everything and read only these 100 hadiths. So we have to be considering the truth, usefulness, and priority. These three are very important. If I missed a question, please let me know. What if I go through good things on internet? Do I have to forward everyone or to some people? As I said, it has to be true, it has to be good, and it has to be a priority. So if you think it meets these requirements, yes. I am looking forward to your next lecture and many more in near future, inshallah. Thank you. Do you have the ayah and surah about those who pray without understanding? Yes, in my paper, I have the reference, and you can also easily find وَأَنْتُمْ سُكَارَى. If you look for the word وَأَنْتُمْ سُكَارَى, you can find it, inshallah, easily. If not, inshallah, I will tell you next week, because I have in my paper and I just need to go to the footnote, inshallah. So I think our time is over. Thank Sheikh Hassan and Qasim Ali and the team in Ali and all of you, and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever we said would be, inshallah, received positively and be useful. And more than anything, we ask Allah for guidance. We need Allah's guidance for ourselves, for our children, for our community, for humanity, so that inshallah we can go through this stage with success, with inshallah greater light, with greater focus and orientation, inshallah. التماس الدعاء. الحمد لله رب العالمين.